This week on Arizona Illustrated, Zyra Liviere.
It's really hard work, and you hardly ever win. And while you're fighting, people are dying. I just never thought my own brother would be one of those statistics.
Downloading Zen on your phone.
Meditation is kind of like sitting at the side of the road and letting things go by and not trying to get out and grab onto the bumpers of the cars and prevent them from going somewhere.
And Desert Meadows, a community comes together.
I think there's just no escaping gardening for me. It's part of who I am. It's not a hobby, it's just what I do.
American politics are contentious and voters are paying attention. Pima County saw a 70% turnout during the midterms, the largest in history. For some, it doesn't start and stop with elections. They stay engaged day in and day out, 365. Zyra Liviere is one of those. This is her story.
It's been a very painful tattoo. It was really deeply a penance that I wanted to pay for having not been there for my brother. My friend Haji always asked, "Do you like it?" And I tell him, "No, I hate it. I hate it because I wish with every ounce of my being that this tattoo didn't exist, that this conversation wasn't happening, that this wasn't the reality of my life. I wish my life was different."
I've seen police look our way and shake their head. We're not going anywhere. You can shake your head at us all you want. You're gonna have to stand me. You're gonna have to fathom my rage until we have justice.
My name is Zyra Liviere. I am co-founder and director of People's Defense Initiative. I shy away from describing myself as an activist most of the time. An advocate for human rights, I prefer.
The Free the Children Coalition stands united here today, demanding an end to Stone Garden Federal Grant Program in Pima County, which leads to racial profiling, leads to more detention, leads to more deportation, leads to more permanent family separation, which is what deportation is.
What Stone Garden is a grant that's given to border counties. Under that grant, Pima County Sheriff's Department deputies double as immigration enforcement agents.
And it's time for us to say no. Thank you.
Organizations joined together and decided to lobby the hell out of the Board of Supervisors and put on an all-out Reject Stone Garden Funds campaign.
That's a pain I don't wish anyone ever has to experience in their lives. I was 19 years old, and I had to fight my mom's deportation case. All this because local police collaborated with Border Patrol.
It still baffles me that people like myself and like my camarada here have to stand in front of crowds to go, "Hey, look, we're human and we hurt," just like you.
I'm from Querétaro, which is just north of Mexico City. My mom was born in Querétaro, my aunt was born in LA, so we have a long history of traveling back and forth. Eventually things at the border changed. My mother needed to get us to Tucson because of a family emergency, and they wouldn't let us cross because we didn't have a visa. We were caught over and over and over again. It was my mother and myself and my brother. My aunt was like, "You know what, we're just gonna walk in." I was holding a juice box and we said US citizen and they let us through, and that was that. The trick was to not look like immigrants and to know a little bit of English. My mother and I have been here ever since. My brother was deported some years back.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
started with quick introductions. We got a racial profiling law enforcement and community partnership committee, which I am the chair of right now.
This time next week, I will be at the White House chairing a panel discussion with sheriffs and ICE and Border Patrol national representatives. So your voice will be heard a week from today at the White House.
Being there across the table from a person who really wants a grant and you saying you're not going to get it, and he's the highest law enforcement official in our county, it wasn't easy and it was very stressful.
There's a lot that good that has come out of this. What I don't want us to do is to transfer those monies over to people we can exercise no such relationship with, which is where those monies will go.
I'll give the sheriff credit. He is a person that you can have a conversation with. We got a racial profiling policy. The sheriff's department had never had a racial profiling policy. So all in favor?
Yes.
All opposed? Aye. Okay. It was a beautiful thing. We were the only county in the entire United States to turn that down. For the Bernie Sanders campaign, I just founded and created a group called Latinas for Bernie Sanders. That was the first time that I ever volunteered my time to anything political. That primary was coming to a close. I was approached by a Phoenix group who was putting Prop 206 on the state ballot in 2016, and that is the minimum wage and earned paid sick time initiative. Vote yes on Prop 206, show up, vote, and rebel against the establishment that is working really hard to get you to stay at home, okay? We passed that overwhelmingly. That campaign changed my life. Trump also won. I was devastated, so I think I was in bed for like 2 weeks. And then I got up and I started organizing around immigrants' rights. We're finally seeing that we're building some political power. The Democratic Socialists of America, at least the folks here locally, are young, they're in college. They're itching to work on something. The ground is ripe in Tucson for young, progressive people like us to go in there. Being a grassroots organizer, I learned so much, and I unlearned a lot of things. One of them being change happens from the top. That's not true. The Democratic Party is a friend. That's also not true. That Trump is the boogeyman and everything's his fault. That is also very much not true. Obama deported millions of migrants. He deported my brother. His name was Memo. Once he got older, he wanted people to call him Saeed, but I've never called him that. We grew up and we both had our behavioral issues. When I would get mentors and teachers that wanted to help me, he would instead get suspended, sent to juvie. He ended up getting in trouble right when he turned 18. He didn't hurt anybody. He went in for 6 years. By then, we were permanent residents. My mother had married. He was freed from prison and then imprisoned immediately in Florence, and he was deported. Not only do they kick you out of your own home, but then you go back to the country that they say that you belong to, and that country also doesn't want you. So 5 months ago, he was shot and killed. He was executed in an alleyway, basically. The terror of that entire experience will never be lost on me. I didn't think I was going to do the work anymore, to be honest. It's really hard work, and you hardly ever win. And while you're fighting it, people are dying. I just never thought my own brother would be one of those statistics. I hadn't felt anything other than deep grief and sadness in a really long time. I go skydiving and I feel nothing until I'm up in the airplane right next to the door, and then I jump, and halfway through I finally feel something. I was terrified, but also felt like I was alive and well for the first time. Having seen how ugly and tragic death can be, I have a deep, deep respect for life, one that I didn't have before.
We want justice! We want justice! Power! Power!
Life is as beautiful as it is cruel. And my work will revolve around trying to tear down the systems which contributed to my brother's death, and there were many. There were a lot.
You can get apps on your phone that will do just about anything. Turn on the lights, bring you food, order a car service, maybe change the temperature in your home. Well, now there are meditation apps like Headspace and Calm that are capturing millions of viewers and earning millions of dollars. But do they work?
Meditation doesn't promise peace. That is a American story, a new American story, that if you meditate, you attain lasting internal peace. What it does give you is awareness. I'm gonna set my insight timer here, a meditation app. Meditation is deciding what to do with your attention, and when you find you can't keep it there, putting it back. All right, well, I'm gonna ring a bell. We'll sit silent for 30 minutes. I'll see you guys then.
More than a decade ago, psychologist Tucker Peck turned to meditation to learn how to be still.
So I went into my first class. I tried to sit quietly, and I noticed that my hands would not stop moving. And I thought I need to learn to meditate until my hands stop moving. And they haven't stopped moving, but what has changed is I can now tell you exactly why they're moving.
Today, Tucker teaches others how to meditate. And in that, he faces competition from his smartphone.
Everybody wants to get something for nothing. Everyone would like to be more aware, more peaceful. The modern interpretation of meditation, you know, the happy person sitting in yoga pants on the beach with an attractive partner sipping tea. Everyone would like that. We would not really like to invest any time or effort in that. So the idea of the phone is in your pocket, it costs nothing, just push the button and you're meditating, I think that really is an attractive way to get started.
You know, the science of meditation apps actually started a good, I guess, 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And the reason that researchers have an interest in meditation apps is because they see meditation apps as the way that we're going to make meditation accessible to many, many more people.
Meditation apps are now more accessible and more popular than ever. Programs like Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, and others are booming, earning millions in revenue and in users every month. Everyone wants what scientists now know that meditation can provide.
In our lab here at the University of Arizona and in prior work at Emory University, we found that meditation, in particular compassion meditation, may have a benefit on inflammation that we can measure in blood samples and cell samples. So the benefits of this practice filter down to all these other important health-related endpoints that we're interested in. Things like stress hormones, things like blood pressure.
Hi, and welcome back to the basics and to session 4.
I'll just turn the app on and set my phone down on the couch or on the bed next to me, and then just go through the process as they talk you through it.
Just taking some nice big deep breaths.
Beth Nelson started using a meditation app on doctor's orders to help treat the anxiety disorder she's lived with since she was 16 years old.
How I always described my anxiety was that my brain just took a thought and kind of ran around in a circle with it. It's kind of like in cartoons when they'd run around in a circle and you'd sort of get the hole in the ground where at the end of it you'd just see the tops of their heads or like ears. And my brain would just take a thought and hang on to it real tight and just run around. Even if that thought was not helpful to me, was not important to the situation I was in, was not even relevant, was not something that could even really happen sometimes. I would just kind of opt out of doing things. My friends would invite me places, they'd invite me to go on trips with them, and I would just, I'd say no and pretty much always cite my anxiety as the factor for, I'm sorry, I can't.
It's okay to allow thoughts to come and go. All we need to do is to sit back and observe the traffic of the mind.
Learning how to meditate and using the Headspace app has given me techniques to be able to take a step back and to kind of stop that circular thought pattern of this is going to be terrible and I can't do anything about it.
Using a meditation app changed Beth's life. But experts say it's too soon to tell how common her experience is. Only a handful of studies have tested meditation apps and their benefits. So far, most have shown the apps have the potential to reduce stress and increase well-being. But very few have compared them to training in person, which comes with its own unique perks.
If you take an intro to meditation course, you have to show up because you paid for it. When you get there, the teacher's going to ask you if you did the meditation, and they'll still like you if you didn't. But the amount of accountability that comes from being in a group, I don't think you can replace through the apps.
But apps can be a beacon and a doorway for those who want to improve their lives with meditation and can't do it the traditional way.
When you've addressed everything else you can think of, and you still don't feel right, there's nowhere to turn but inside. The apps allow you to get guidance in meditation from the world's most skilled teachers, in your closet with the door closed where nobody has to know you're doing this. There's no one around to judge you.
I don't think if my therapist had originally suggested, hey, I think you should go and do a class and do meditation, I don't think I probably would have done it. At this point, I feel like I could definitely manage that, but the app made it super accessible at a time where it wouldn't have been otherwise.
Now equipped with a tool that has helped her heal, Beth Nelson is setting out to help others heal too.
Presently, I'm going to nursing school, which was something that for a while, even after I applied, I wasn't sure if it would be possible for me to do. Meditation is kind of like sitting at the side of the road and letting things go by. And not trying to get out and grab onto the bumpers of the cars and prevent them from going somewhere. It's work sometimes, you have to put in a concentrated effort, but it's very worthwhile.
Do you have an abandoned lot or blighted property in your neighborhood? Well, a group of Green Valley residents had one that they just couldn't take anymore. They'd had enough. So they rolled up their sleeves, got their hands dirty, and planted the seed for a welcome transformation.
I've never seen anything like this.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Personally, I'm just astonished that we've done this.
My name is Chuck Parsons, and what I do is I'm the project manager of Desert Meadows Park for Green Valley Gardeners. When we first took on the property, it was nothing but a big grass field. It had been basically abandoned, and it looked very much like the field that is just to the south of the park today. Big transformation. People can't believe it.
My name's Chris Beamish, and I'm from Airdrie, Alberta. retired law enforcement officer with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Whoever thought of this idea and the architect or the designers that laid this out did a phenomenal job. I think it would be something that, a very good template for other parks to look at.
The park began with this area, which is the hummingbird butterfly garden. All the plants in here are either attracting butterflies or birds of different type. We're at the Barrio Garden, and this came about well into the beginning of the project. Some volunteers were working along the Anza Trail planting native plants, and these mesquites were here, and they would come over here for shade, and thought what a great place to have a picnic table, and that led to a Barrio Garden. We started off with doing everything from the donations that came into the park from people's yards, and adding a lot of color to them. People said it wasn't recycling junk, it was upcycling junk, I think is the term. We call this the area, the Memory Lock Garden. We have this metal fence where people can hang a brass plaque in memory of either their loved ones, two-legged or four-legged, because a lot of retired people dearly love their four-legged critters.
Our favorite poodle dog.
It's great. I mean, we can come out here and walk by and have good memories of all our pets.
I have been around my mother and my grandmother who gardened, and I think there's just no escaping gardening for me. I just feel like it's part of who I am. It's not a hobby, it's just what I do. It's kind of like breathing for me. I have to be here. My name is Elisa Deering, and I'm the garden coordinator for the community garden at Desert Meadows Park. This land was offered to us to be the caretakers of, and one of the provisions that we asked for was that we could have a community garden here because it's something we had been looking for a long time. The plots were established here, and pretty quickly we outgrew what we had started with, which was 45 plots, and we now have 60 plots. I get up every day and I think about the garden, and I come over here and I garden, and I go home and I think about plants and I research plants, and it's what I do. So it's really my life.
We've been blessed with one member, that Henry Garcia, that loves to do metalwork in his retirement. And he volunteered to help us at the very beginning to create our sign out on the street to announce that we had Desert Meadows Park here. And from that, he has developed all kinds of metal pieces.
It's what we do. We give back to the community. I mean, it's part of what I believe we all should do. You know, I've been on 21 boards or commissions, and you know, I've been very active, very involved, and I finally got away from that. And I thought I wanted to do something to still give back, and this seemed like the perfect niche.
It gives me a lot of satisfaction to see what's happened because, first of all, I could never have envisioned that this would have happened, and I'm not sure anybody could have envisioned it because it kind of took on a life of its own as it started going. You're almost ready for a monsoon garden by then.
I travel with a dog. I like to get up early in the morning and walk around the city park, and always thought, gee, it'd be fun to live across from a park. And we started the project.
Morning.
And lo and behold, a house came up for sale across from the park. My wife and I wanted to downsize, and it was perfect. So I get to see firsthand how the park is used every day.
It hasn't just all been a walk in the park, no pun intended, but it's very satisfying. Makes you wonder what we could do next
Yeah, and I might be glad that I may be stepping down as president. It's a collective effort for sure.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Here's a sneak peek at a story we're working on.
We've been serving 450 bagged lunches every morning, in addition to 125 family food bags. And we do big cups of soup, and that's every day. Doing this ministry is a way for us to live out our faith.